Imagine finding out that one of the most important pieces of American economic security isn't in America. It's a bunch of rocks in the middle of the ocean. And somehow those rocks have turned into military bases, shipping checkpoints, energy arteries, and leverage over the technology inside your car. Welcome to the South China Sea, the giant wet backyard where China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and the United States all somehow ended up arguing over who gets to sit where. And before your attention span escapes to another cat video, understand this. This isn't really a story about islands. It's a story about control. Because in 2023, roughly 18 million barrels of crude oil and condensate a day moved through the South China Sea and nearby waters. That's around 43% of global maritime oil shipments. So if somebody seriously disrupted that route, you wouldn't need a missile hitting an American supermarket. You just need to make shipping more expensive. Oil gets more expensive. Insurance gets more expensive. Freight gets more expensive. And eventually your grocery bill starts looking like a personal attack. That's why the Chinese bear cat cares so much about this particular puddle. And China didn't just look at the map and say, gee, I would really like a military base here. No, it looked at tiny reefs and basically said, we can fix that. Starting in the 2010s, China carried out massive land reclamation projects in the Spratly Islands. Tiny reefs became enormous artificial outposts. Then came runways, harbors, radar installations, hangars, communications equipment, and military infrastructure. It's one of the greatest landlord scams in history. Start with a rock, add some dirt, build a runway, and suddenly you're claiming you have a neighborhood. Except this neighborhood has military aircraft. The biggest Chinese outposts, including Fiery Cross, Subi, and Mischief Reefs, became major strategic positions. And here's the clever part. The purpose isn't necessarily to launch a war tomorrow. It's to stay there, constantly. A ship patrols, another ship shows up, an aircraft flies overhead, a radar watches, a Coast Guard vessel appears. And after enough repetition, something strange happens. Your presence starts becoming normal. That's how power works when you're trying not to start a war. You don't necessarily punch the other cat. You just keep sitting in its favorite chair until everyone accepts that it's your chair now. China also uses Coast Guard forces and maritime militia vessels to reinforce its presence in disputed areas. So the confrontation isn't always a missile against a missile. Sometimes it's a patrol boat against another patrol boat, a water cannon, a dangerous maneuver, a radio warning, a ship blocking another ship. The entire thing can become extremely aggressive without becoming an official war. And that's exactly why this region is so dangerous. Because nobody wants to be the cat that starts World War III, but everybody wants to be the cat standing in the best position when the argument gets serious. Now, here's where the story gets much more interesting for Americans: rare earths. But let's fix one misconception. First, the South China Sea itself is not some giant magical Chinese rare earth mine. The real advantage is China's control over critical parts of the global processing chain. And that is arguably more powerful. In 2024, China produced about 60% of the world's mined magnet-related rare earths, but refining, about 91%. Permanent magnet production, around 94%. And these aren't useless little rocks. These materials are essential for powerful magnets used in electric vehicles, industrial motors, wind turbines, electronics, aerospace, defense systems, and other advanced technologies. So imagine you're the orange cat in Washington. You want electric cars, you want drones, you want missiles, you want robots, you want AI data centers, you want advanced military hardware, and then somebody tells you, by the way, a huge chunk of the materials and processing needed for that technology runs through China. You look at the map, you look at Beijing, you look at your supply chain, and suddenly everyone in Washington develops a passionate interest in domestic mining. Funny how that works. Because mining is only the first step. You can dig the rocks out of the ground. Great. Now you have rocks. You still have to crush them, separate them, refine them, turn them into metals, make alloys, make magnets, and put those magnets inside the machine. That processing expertise is where China's advantage becomes much more difficult to replace. It's like owning a freezer full of fish, while another cat owns the can opener. And that's why China's export controls on rare earths have become such a geopolitical weapon. Because you don't have to invade somebody to create economic pain. Sometimes you just slow down the shipment. Suddenly factories start asking, where are the magnets? And someone replies, complicated. That's enough to make a CEO develop a drinking problem. Now connect the dots. One country has built strategic military positions across a crucial maritime region. The same country dominates major sections of a critical mineral supply chain. And that supply chain feeds industries that the United States considers strategically important. This is no longer just a territorial dispute. It's an economic security problem, a military problem, an industrial problem, a technology problem, and a gigantic headache for anyone trying to keep the global economy running. Now hit like and follow Paws of War, you little geopolitical shrimp. Because Washington is not sitting there eating popcorn. The United States has a defense treaty with the Philippines. That means a serious conflict involving Philippine forces could create a much larger confrontation. So America has been expanding military cooperation with Manila, increasing access to bases, conducting exercises, and trying to make sure the Philippines isn't left alone if things go completely insane. And now, look at the neighborhood. China is building and militarizing positions. The United States is strengthening alliances. The Philippines is increasing its defense cooperation with Washington. Vietnam is expanding its own positions. Malaysia and Brunei have their own claims. Taiwan is also part of the dispute. And you have one massive ocean with several cats convinced they're entitled to the same piece of carpet. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, why don't they just draw a line and stop fighting? Congratulations. You have officially discovered why international politics is terrible. China claims sovereignty over much of the South China Sea. Several Southeast Asian governments reject overlapping parts of those claims. In 2016, an international arbitration tribunal ruled against the legal basis of China's expansive historic rights claims under the relevant Law of the Sea framework. Beijing rejected the ruling, and the ocean remained exactly where it was. That's the hilarious thing about geopolitics. You can write a decision, you can print it, you can put a beautiful seal on it. Then the other cat can look at it and say, no. And suddenly, international law has entered the chat with a sad little PowerPoint presentation. But the map isn't the only thing that matters. Resources matter, fishing matters, energy matters, shipping matters, military positioning matters, and control of access matters. If you have a base in the middle of a disputed region, your aircraft can operate closer, your ships can stay longer, your radar can see farther, your sensors can monitor movement. Your government can pressure other governments without firing a shot. That's the real value of the artificial islands. They aren't valuable because they're pretty. They're valuable because they extend reach. And once you combine military reach with economic leverage, you get something much more powerful than a pile of concrete. You get influence. Now imagine what happens during a serious crisis. A shipping route becomes dangerous. Insurance companies panic. Tankers reroute. Factories start worrying about deliveries. Energy prices jump. A manufacturer can't get a critical component. A car company delays production. And eventually, some American guy in Ohio is staring at his monthly bill asking, why the hell did my truck get more expensive? Because a patrol boat in Asia had a bad day. That's modern globalization. You don't have to live near a battlefield to pay for one. You just have to be connected to the supply chain. And that's why the United States is trying to diversify critical mineral supplies. More domestic mining, more processing, more partnerships with allies, more alternative suppliers. Because the most embarrassing position in geopolitics is discovering during a crisis that you need something and the other cat owns the only factory that can produce it. That's not a military defeat, that's a spreadsheet defeat, and somehow those can be just as painful. But here's where it gets really cynical. The United States and China aren't only competing over islands, they're competing over who gets to define the rules of the next industrial era. China wants regional dominance and greater control over its surrounding seas. Washington wants to prevent China from becoming so powerful that American influence in the Pacific becomes irrelevant. The Philippines wants security. Vietnam wants its claims protected. Corporations want stable supply chains. Energy companies want predictable shipping. Defense contractors want bigger budgets. And investors want to know what happens next. Everybody has a reason. Everybody has a flag. Everybody says they're protecting stability. And everybody is quietly calculating what they can get out of the situation. That's geopolitics. Nobody is fighting over the ocean because they love the ocean. They're fighting over what the ocean gives them. Access, position, trade, energy, resources, leverage. And now you understand why those ugly artificial islands matter. They are pieces on a much larger board. And the rare earth story makes the board even nastier. Because America can build more ships, China can build more ships. America can build more drones, China can build more drones. America can mine more minerals, China can refine more minerals. Everyone can spend billions trying to become less dependent on everyone else. And congratulations. You've just reinvented the Cold War with electric cars. But this time the weapons aren't only missiles, they're supply chains, export controls, factories, processing plants, ports, algorithms, and raw materials. The battlefield is everywhere. And most of the time, you won't even recognize it as a battlefield. No explosions, no sirens, just a sudden notification that your car costs $3,000 more. And that's where you come in, little economic casualty. While the biggest cats on Earth are fighting over shipping lanes, military bases, critical minerals, and global influence, you're counting coins for a fish-flavored leftover pouch. Your taxes help fund tactical scratching posts, aircraft carriers, drones, radar networks, guided lasers for blowing up street cats, and little milk saucers for the elite of Epstein Island. Then you wag your little tail at the ballot box and elect the same parasites. You spend the next 4 years fighting online over which billionaire deserves your loyalty. Meanwhile, the billionaire is buying another company. The government is securing another strategic supply chain. The defense contractor gets another contract. And you get another subscription fee. Then the price of your car goes up because a mineral was restricted on the other side of the planet. Perfect. You have just participated in the South China Sea conflict without ever leaving Walmart. That's the genius of modern geopolitics. The powerful cats don't need to steal the fish directly from your bowl. They just need to control the road the fish takes to get there. So subscribe to Paws of War, you little maritime idiot, because the South China Sea isn't just an ocean. It's a highway. The artificial islands are checkpoints. The minerals are leverage. The ships are pressure. And the supply chains are weapons that don't look like weapons. The biggest cats are fighting to control the routes, the resources, and the rules. And you're standing at the end of the chain asking why everything costs more. That's the part they never put on the map. You don't have to own the island. You don't have to own the minerals. You don't even have to know where the South China Sea is. You just have to be the cat at the end of the bill. And when the rich cats fight over the backyard, the little cat pays for the fence.